Welcome to this Conversations on Groong episode with relations between India and Armenia in our focus today. We have with us Rananjay Anand and Benyamin Poghosyan. Hello and welcome, gentlemen. Great to have you both on our show.
Namaste and Bharabjes to everyone.
Vokchuin and Namaste.
Asbed, Hovik, it's always pleasure to be with you. Ranu, it's even more pleasure to be with you. And greetings from Yerevan.
Always good. Greetings from Delhi.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you all here. Hey everyone, before we get going here, let me remind you to support us to help us expand our reach. Go to our donate page, podcasts.groong.org/donate, and consider buying us a coffee. Or better yet, become a sustaining member of Groong with a monthly contribution. We are going to keep going as we have for years, but we are stronger with your support than without. podcasts.groong.org/donate. Thank you, and on with the show.
Okay, let's begin the discussion with Raisina 2024. Over the past few years, the ties between India and Armenia have been steadily gaining momentum. In a significant move underscoring the importance of their bilateral relationship, India has signaled its plan to assign a defense attaché to its embassy in Armenia. This development highlights the deepening engagement between the two nations and is just one of many manifestations of this phenomenon. Notably, both you, Benyamin, and Rananjay participated in the Raisina 2024 conference held in New Delhi 2 months ago. And there seemed to be a lot of content about Armenia-India relations. So seemingly there was a lot of commemoration of the strides made in the relations so far. Can each of you take a turn and tell us what were the major takeaways from this conference?
Okay, first of all, Raisina dialogue, which started, I guess, in 2016. We may call it Indian Davos or something like Indian Munich Security Conference. A lot of international participants, the right way for Indian government and also for Indian think tanks to articulate the new vision of this growing India in a post-unipolar world, India, which definitely will become one of the pillars of this multipolar or whatever you call it, this post-unipolar world. Rananjay spoke about the think tank collaboration or think tank cooperation here. I should emphasize the role of Armenia, the think tank established by AGBU in late 2022 and which was registered in January 2023. And Armenia-India relations are one of the key pillars of Armenia foreign policy program. Armenia took part both in Raisina 2023, when also Armenian Foreign Minister Arad Mirzoyan was there, and also in Raisina 2024. But the most important thing was that both in 2023 and also in 2024, we organized special session on Armenia-India relations. And if in 2023, it was a side event, then this time in 2024, this entire Raisina dialogue was opened by Armenia-India dialogue with two sessions, one focused on geopolitics, another on geoeconomics, with speakers from Armenian and from Indian side. Interestingly, during the 2024 Armenia-India opening session of Raisina dialogue, the representatives of Azerbaijani Turkish embassies, as well as some Azerbaijani think tankers who also took part in Raisina, were at the session place or session venue. So this was also interesting to our neighbors, let's put it this way. So yes, think tank cooperation continues, but also it was not only with ORF, like ORF is the organizer of Raisina Dialogue, maybe the leading Indian think tank with close cooperation with Indian MFA or Ministry of External Affairs, but also we at Raisina, we had met about 7 Indian think tanks, also with significant help from Rananjay. I may just mention some of them, like India Foundation, Vivekananda Foundation, CLOSE, which is a more military-related think tank. Then we have a meeting with Natstrat. This is another newly established, very famous Indian think tank, led by the former Indian ambassador to Russia. So think tank cooperation is important, and also due to also our efforts, efforts of Armenia, ORF, besides having Raisina dialogue every year, they have also so-called global dialogue in autumn, which they organize outside India. For example, in 2023, the global dialogue took place in Sydney, Australia. The main focus was geopolitics of East Asia or Southeast Asia. And now we are very close to confirmation that 2024 ORF Global Dialogue will take place in Yerevan. It will be called Yerevan Dialogue with 100 of participants. I'm speaking about both experts and also dignitaries. Of course, there is no clear list, but there are a lot of discussions about some high VIP level guests from India and from other countries. ORF president was in Armenia just a few weeks ago to discuss different issues, also the organization of Yerevan Global Dialogue in September 2024. So yes, this is a very important venue, Raisina, but not only for discussions or connection with ORF, but also as a launchpad to have established contacts with other Indian think tanks. And everywhere there was a genuine interest towards South Caucasus, because until recently, first, Indian foreign policy was focused on immediate neighborhood. Definitely relation with Pakistan, China, Nepal, Maldives, Sri Lanka, etc. But now, as India growth, both economically and politically, the weight of India growth, India now focused on so-called extended neighborhood. And in this extended neighborhood, if few years ago, the main focus in this area of extended neighborhood was Central Asia. Now we see how slowly, but South Caucasus are coming into the radar of Indian foreign policy or into the radar of Indian extended neighborhood policy. So there is an interest among Indian think tanks and also among Indian academia, because also we have a very efficient workshop in Jawaharlal Nehru University. This is a #1 university in India. Maybe we can compare it with Harvard or Princeton or Yale in the United States. It was a workshop in the School of International Studies. And we see how much professors and also students, especially graduate and postgraduate students, they are interested in South Caucasus. So yes, South Caucasus is coming into Indian foreign policy radar. And also there is a growing interest in India. And also there is a growing demand of experts on India, because until very recently, when speaking about experts on Eurasia, mostly there were experts on Central Asia, like Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, like how to reach Central Asia via Afghanistan. But now there is an interest towards South Caucasus, and also there is a growing understanding that India needs more experts on South Caucasus. India needs more cooperation with South Caucasus, including with Armenia.
Rananjay, I'd like to hear your impressions of Raisina as well. But a quick question, because something you mentioned intrigued me, Benyamin. You said there were Azerbaijani experts also at the conference. Is the relationship at the conference between Armenian and Azerbaijani attendees more competitive or cooperative over there?
I would say that relations per se, there were no such a relation, because there was no panel when we shared with Azerbaijanis. There was no such an like South Caucasus panel or even India-Azerbaijan panel. So personally, because I am a member of some Armenia-Azerbaijan expert dialogues, I knew some Azerbaijan experts, and we just saw each other telling that, okay, hi, and etc. So I would not say that was any relationship, neither competitive nor cooperative, but it was interesting fact that Azerbaijani experts and also representatives of Azerbaijani and Turkish embassies, they were interested to take part in this Armenia-India dialogue, which was the officially opening event of Raisina Dialogue.
Yeah, so this year's Raisina Dialogue, as Benyamin said, we were part of the same delegation. And this year, again, it started with India-Armenia Dialogue on the sidelines. And quite interestingly, the hall was quite full. And as he said, we had our friends from different countries as well. And this year, the whole agenda was not about past. The agenda was all about the future, how India-Armenia is looking forward to collaborate in terms of not only governmental, but civil society, as Benyamin has explained in detail, that how we were engaged with think tanks. So more 7+ think tanks we engaged, and the subject expertise of those think tanks were different. So geopolitics, defense, and different parts of the collaborations. So this has given basically it has set an agenda for India-Armenia relations for the next decade, I must say. And the interest to bring it back to Yerevan, as well as Yerevan Dialogue with the same ORF collaboration and MFA, of course, with the leadership of APRI, Armenia. So this is taking steps in a very, very defined manner. And lots of discussions were there among the people. And this discussion was covering basically various facts, not only geopolitical thing, but also the connectivity. Connectivity is something which is very, very interesting for the future. I think the question will come in a later part of your discussion. So Raisina dialogue gave us a direction for India-Armenia relation in the coming decade. And from here on, lots of interest picked up as the people, the academic, the academia, the think tank experts, the interest generation about Armenia, South Caucasus is now much deeper, and people are ready to look into this. And this is how we see the positive outcome of this involvement of India-Armenia dialogue in the Raisina dialogue, basically.
Okay, I want to take us back to Armenia and the Indian community, specifically in Armenia. Rananjay, we first talked with you over 2 years ago. And even back then, the community of Indians in Armenia numbered in the tens of thousands, especially Indian students studying in Armenia. And apparently, just to the naked eye, it seems that the number of South Asianers and specifically Indians has grown. You see them delivering goods, you see them working in construction sites. So can you give us a quick update on the status of the community in Armenia? Does the community exist because relations and opportunities are increasing, or are relations improving because there is a significant Indian community in Armenia?
Greetings to everyone, and thanks for the second opportunity and honor to be with you in this podcast. And regarding the question, yes, in the recent a couple of years, the number of Indian migrants have increased a lot in Armenia. And if we have seen the development there, the main requirement was in the construction industry, basically. So the lots of laborers and workers were required. In fact, I was also approached by a few friends. They wanted some more Indian workers who could come. But yes, this was an opportunity for Indian workers, and the agents just exploited this to their benefit. And you know how this industry works, and they were given some false sense of promises that they are going to earn a lot, their life will be settled in that way. But and because of that, lots of people were duped towards Armenia. And once they turned up here, and then they realized that this is not the opportunity they were promised, so they are in a kind of doldrums, So yes, it cannot be said it's completely because of the opportunity. It's a mix of opportunity plus the misleading, a case of mislead to those workers as well. So they are not going to be the permanent settlers in Armenia per se, because they're the agents basically they take them, they give them a picture that they are going to some European companies where the earning will be much higher, and when the earning is not there, so they get disappointed. So they are looking either to come back. They are either looking to come back to India, or they are looking for another opportunity to go ahead.
Yeah, I've seen some of these. I've seen some of these reports, and it's quite unfortunate that this is happening. That would be, I think, really important to at least, at the, bilateral level between Armenia and India to try to curb down on that kind of sort of, I guess it's almost trafficking, right? When people are given false promises, but I don't know. I don't want to call it trafficking, but it's misleading people into migrating to Armenia. And there were cases where people's passports were taken from them. Is that correct?
It's not exactly trafficking. Everyone who is going to Armenia, they are going legally, basically, on the visa. They go there, they receive tourist visa, they go there, and then they overstay. And the Armenian law is also like, if you are overstaying, you can pay back some fine, and then you can leave the country. So it's not illegal per se. So it's not trafficking. But yes, the intention is something different, and the expectation is different. So when it happens, then they are disappointed and they turn up into some, to survive in that condition, they are ready to work. Yes, some cases have been there. One head investigation, they came up with one report that the workers' passports were held there by their handlers, and because of that, because when they turn up there and their expectations are not met, so there is a certain sense of disappointment, and they want to return, and then the handlers, they don't want them to return because they have spent a certain cost to that. So
are these
this
expectations
is one.
being managed by the embassy in Armenia?
Well, embassy is not involved into this at all. It's basically, the application to visit Armenia is in India, not in Armenia. So the screening and everything, whatever visa is approved by the Armenian authorities. And once they turn up there, of course, they go and approach Indian embassy, and Indian embassy tries to help them in whatsoever manner they could. But if the number is overwhelming, then it becomes a problem. But I guess on this issue, in fact, I had spoken to our ambassador as well, and the concerned authority here as well, that there should be a regulation of labor law between these these two countries, as it's existing between India and Gulf countries. This is quite, this is quite standard in terms of, how the jobs are created. It is going on exchange from that country, and it is shared with the embassy, and the job is taken up by the certain agents who are well recognized by the Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Immigration. They have certain guarantee to provide to the government that they will take care of the worker, their condition, and that's how the exploitation doesn't happen. And this regulation keeps this relationship, the migration of workers, in a controllable manner. So this is also deliberated, as per my understanding. Both government of India and Armenia, they are working on this, that how it should be regulated. I think this year, in Raisina dialogue, Minister of Labor, Mr. Manucharyan, he also spoke of this, that in 2020-22, they have signed an MOU with Skill India. So Skill India is a big, the ambitious project by Prime Minister Modi, that it will be training the workers with skill set, around 100 million people per year, in such a manner that all workers will be quite skilled, and this workforce can be provided to the global work area. And that is how even Armenia is planning to collaborate on this, and they signed an MOU that not only they would train Armenia's workers through that Skill India project, but also if need is there to have a worker, so those workers who are having the Skill India certificate, they would be sought into the Armenian work market. So this is a good development from both countries, I guess. So
there are a lot of Russian programmers and IT workers in Armenia. Do you know if there is emphasis in that bilateral, program into this aspect, having more tech workers and buttressing Armenia's technical capabilities, essentially?
Right. So the other sector, which is very much India is basically India and Armenia approaching each other, is the high-tech sector. And the high-tech, because Armenia has lots of talent base in terms of IT, and India is a huge market in terms of the cities like we have different technological hubs like Bangalore, IT city, Silicon Valley of India, Hyderabad. There are many IT cities in India, and it's a huge market. So I think this collaboration can create something which is very unique because Armenian human resource is quite dynamic in terms of the IT knowledge as well, and India offers that market and the scale that how it can be harnessed towards better. And to my mind, it's not, it's when it comes to trade and economy, the size of Armenian market is not that big. So it's better to have co-creation in terms of innovation from both countries, and some ecosystem should come up where both countries, the talent and hub of both countries come up together and create a kind of co-creation of the technology which can help not only these two countries but the world. And here I am emphasizes again that it's not about the people only in India and Armenia, but I'm talking about the diaspora collaboration as well, because the Armenian diaspora has a larger base than a country itself, and they are really doing very well wherever they are. So this can be leveraged not only to these countries per se, but even through their diaspora collaboration. So yes, high-tech collaboration is on priority list according to my thinking. I guess it's going into right direction, and as we see in the last 2-3 years, the relationship between India and Armenia has been on a very quick, very strong and firm base and going northwards. Yes, defense sparked it, but we see it beyond now, and this the collaboration is quite serious, quite genuine, and lots of deliberations are happening through civil societies, through think tanks. Of course, governments are involved. So we can see that there is an all-out effort to spark that fire.
Hovik, let's just take a moment here. We'd like to remind everyone to go to our donate page, podcasts.groong.org/donate, and consider buying us a coffee or two, or better yet, become a sustaining member of Groong and give monthly.
We like to believe that we are unique in the category of Armenian podcasts. We digest Armenian news weekly and bring you interesting discussions relevant to it. We've always been a labor of love, and we're not only nonprofit, but we're also non-budget. Just 2 to 3 friends who have committed our lives, time, and effort to understand the world around Armenians and sharing that understanding with you.
Of course, we will continue our work as we always have, but we are stronger with you than without you. Your support will help us expand our reach to more people who are interested in Armenian news and affairs around the world.
So please visit our donate page, podcasts.groong.org/donate, and consider supporting us. Thank you in advance. We appreciate your listening to us and take that trust and your support very seriously.
Thank you.
For those of you who are just tuning in, we're talking with Rananjay Anand and Benyamin Poghosyan about Indian and Armenian relations. Now, let's move to the topic of trade. India is a rising superpower on the world stage and is aggressively pursuing influence and partnerships around the globe. Besides Armenia, India is heavily investing in relations with African and East Asian countries, and even EU countries such as Poland. With Armenia, India has certain affinities in areas such as trade, technology, and also defense and energy. India's appointment of a defense attaché to its Armenian embassy emphasizes these synergies. Benjamin, can you tell us how India's North-South Trade Corridor, or INSTC as it's called, incorporates Armenia in their route, and how is it coming along? What is going well, what isn't?
So, as Rananjay mentioned, connectivity is one of the pillars of India-Armenia relationship, along with defense cooperation and also along with digital technology cooperation. So when we're speaking about connectivity, definitely The first which came into our mind is the International North-South Transport Corridor. Originally, agreement, I guess, was signed somewhere in 2000. Then there were some activities, but more or less not very active. But recently, due to geopolitical changes and the need for new supply chains, changes of global logistics, this international North-South Transport Corridor is receiving more and more attention, including from India. So the original idea was to connect India with Europe via Russia. India, Iran, South Caucasus, Russia, Europe. However, since February 2022, it's complicated to have a large-scale transport logistics from Russia to Europe due to obvious reasons. I mean, the war in Ukraine, we started in February 2022. While India still needs alternative routes to reach Europe, which will circumvent Suez Channel and Red Sea. First, because obviously Suez Channel is becoming more and more congested. Let's simply remember what happened in March 2021, when this big container ship got an accident, and for 2 weeks, I guess, the channel was closed, bringing billions of dollars of financial losses. Plus, the geopolitical tensions in the Red Sea, especially after October 2023, making the transportation via Red Sea is much more complicated. So India is looking for alternatives to reach Europe. Of course, there are several ideas. In 2023 G20 meeting, the United States pushed forward IMEC, India, Middle East, Europe corridor. Again, the idea is to bring goods from India by sea to the United Arab Emirates, and then via Saudi Arabia, Jordan, bring it to Israel, and from Israel via Mediterranean to Europe. But of course, we all know that the Middle East is a messy place until started after 1945 or even before 1945. So that is why, despite there are a lot of discussions now about IMEC, but also there are a lot of discussions that if this is going to happen, definitely not now, and even not in 2030. So one of the alternative routes which can connect India with Europe may pass through Iran, South Caucasus, Georgia, Black Sea. Okay, you can reach Black Sea from Iran either via Azerbaijan or Armenia, but because India is already using, and Iran is already using Azerbaijan to reach Russia, I don't believe that both India and Iran will be interested to put all their eggs in one basket, in Azerbaijani basket. Also, given very tense relation between Iran and Azerbaijan due to Israel-Azerbaijan strategic partnership, and also tense relations between India and Turkey because of Turkey's anti-Indian position on Kashmir issue, and also evolving relationship between Turkey, Pakistan, and also the establishment of so-called Three Brothers Alliance. I mean, Turkey, Azerbaijan, Pakistan. So in this case, in this sense, Armenia may play a role here. However, we should also be realistic and understand that as far as there is a large-scale international sanctions against Iran, and due to war in Ukraine, steps between Iran and Russia to accelerate their cooperation in different areas, including defense areas, the relations between the West and Iran are going down. It also will be complicated to organize large-scale shipments of goods via Iran to Europe. I'm not even speaking use Iran-Azerbaijan Georgia route or Iran-Armenia Georgia route. Any large-scale transportation via Iran to Europe or from Europe now is complicated. But also, first, as I mentioned, we should be realistic that it's not going to happen. Then within 2 or 3 years, Iran or Armenia will become the new transit paradise to reach Europe. But also these type of global projects, they are envisaged for not years, for decades. So no one knows what may happen after 10 years. For example, in 2015, when the United States reached a nuclear deal with Iran, many sanctions were removed. And it seems that, okay, now it's time to use Iranian territories. Then President Trump left the deal, and we are what we are. But nobody knows what will happen in 2028, for example. Who will be US president who will win the US presidential election in 2028 or later. So still there is a chance that Iran can be a area or route through which large-scale transportation could reach Europe. But from Armenian perspective, even it's good thing that this is not going to happen in 3, 5, 7 years, because unfortunately, Armenia lacks normal infrastructure with Iran. We do not have a railway. Unfortunately, there is no direct railway connecting Armenia with Iran. The only railway which exists, is passed through Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic, through Azerbaijan. It's closed, and I have great doubts that this route is going to be open anytime soon. But even on highways, the main highway is closed and is under Azerbaijani control starting November 2021. We have only one alternative highway, which is not sufficient even to bring necessary amounts of Iranian goods to Armenia, or via Armenia to Georgia, or via Armenia to Georgia and Russia by land. So Armenia definitely needs new infrastructure, at least in Sunik region. If we speak about with the names, Armenia needs entirely new infrastructure, highway infrastructure, starting from Sisian. This is the first city in Sunik region when you enter Sunik region driving from Yerevan, from Sisian up to Armenia-Iran border. And this is approximately will be some more than 100-kilometer new highway. And given the mountains, there should be numerous tunnels, numerous bridges. So it's a quite significant project. In February 2024, two Iranian companies won the tender to start the construction of Kajaran Armenia-Iran border section. So Kajaran somewhere is between Sisian and Armenia-Iran border. So construction officially was launched to have a new highway which will connect Kajaran with Armenia-Iran border, but this construction itself will take years. There are some estimates that the highway from Kajaran until Armenia-Iran border will be ready somewhere in 2028, probably. Currently, tender is on the way for this Sisian-Kajaran part. Still is tender on the way. There is no winner, and because there is no winner, definitely there is no construction. But what I'm telling is that there is some perceptions that more or less within 10 years, if everything is okay, I mean also geopolitically, given the tense relation with Azerbaijan appetite to take Sunik at all, but if we're not discussing these nightmare scenarios, there is a perception that somewhere in 2032, maybe in 2034, within 10 years, Armenia may have this entirely new highway infrastructure via Sunik, which may very easily connect Yerevan to Armenia-Iran border, and highways from Yerevan to Gyumri and then up to Georgia. They are more or less okay because they also were part of this Armenian North-South highway project, and more or less until 2025 or 2026, as a part of this North-South highway from Yerevan up to Bavra, and Bavra is a cross checkpoint on Armenia-Georgia border, 40 kilometers north from Gyumri. So we hope that somewhere in 2026, probably, this Yerevan-Armenia-Georgia border section will be finished, and somewhere in early 2030s, probably 2032, 2033, 2034, this new highway via Sunik will be constructed. I mean, starting from Sisian and reaching Armenia-Iran borders. And if hopefully some geopolitical changes will take place, as US, Russia will come into terms on European security architecture, will freeze the Ukraine war, and then somehow also Iran-Russia relations will not be perceived so negatively by the US and by the EU, or maybe we will have some sort of Obama-like president in United States in 2028 or in 2032 who will try to somehow normalize relation with Iran, as Obama did in 2015. And then within this time frame, it could be a situation when in early 2030s, Armenia can play a significant role connecting India with Europe. So it's not going to happen now, it's not going to happen in 3 years, in 5 years, even in 7 years. But if everything goes through the plan, it means that at least infrastructure will be ready within Armenia to connect Armenia-Georgia border with Armenia-Iran border somewhere in early 2030s.
So when you mentioned that there is a lot riding on this and there's not enough infrastructure, that also rings a bell about financing. Is India involved in the financing of these infrastructure projects, Rananjay?
As per my knowledge, so far, India is not involved in any infrastructure, road infrastructure or rail infrastructure in Armenia. But India has provision to provide line of credit to friendly nations. And this line of credit is something which is not predatory. It's very, very nominal. So like 0.1%, 1% interest, which doesn't matter that much. And India provides not only the line of credit, but also man and material within that line of credit condition. So the expertise is also there. And I mean, in fact, we have, deliberated a bit about some, the phase of construction there happening to encourage Indian company to participate in the tender. But it didn't happen so far. But I think if there is a concrete plan where India can participate, and as I see the relationship between India and Armenia is growing stronger and stronger, so we may see some involvement of Indian infrastructure company because India directly doesn't, as a government entity, doesn't do infrastructure development or all something like that. In India, you have companies, private companies who are doing this. So the government of India will encourage those companies to go and participate in the tender. And this is a process. So if the scale is there and India can help with that in terms of line of credit, which is financing part. And this is very, very crucial and very important link where, the friendly country has to put a request to India that please provide us this line of credit, and India, weighing all pros and cons, they offer this help to. I mean, it is happening in our all neighboring countries here. India is providing a lot of financial support. In fact, even not only infrastructure development, but the Sri Lanka, which was almost bankrupt because of the debt trap diplomacy of China. So almost $4 billion India helped Sri Lanka to afloat, from that situation when they didn't have anything left, basically to exist as a nation. So India will certainly come forward in terms of, the financial help if it is helping a friendly nation in a strategic manner for India's point of view as well. And I think Armenia fits very well into that.
I keep thinking that this north-south corridor, on many maps of INSTC, Armenia is not even shown. The primary line from through Azerbaijan is shown. And my question is, given how strategic is this for India to have a backup line essentially through Armenia, number one, and number two, could in the future railway also be potentially part of the game in order to truly be an alternative to Azerbaijan? Is that feasible, or was that discussed as well? I mean, and frankly, to be honest, maybe in terms of construction, 10 years is normal, but it just seems too slow for me. So.
Well, I was coming to that point actually. When we talk about connectivity in this region, it's not about logistics per se only. It's about the stability of peace in the region as well. So once the countries get involved with the infrastructure development, they look for the stability in the region. They look for peace in the region. So this is, of course, if you see the growth of India as a global economy in the last 1 decade, so India has jumped quite quickly. India is at the 5th place, world's 5th largest economy in terms of GDP, nominal GDP, and India is expecting to gain the 3rd spot as the world's 3rd largest economy in the next 2 years. Just 2-3 days back, IMF has come up with this idea that by 2030, India will become world's 3rd largest economy by GDP, nominal GDP terms. So here you and also if you have been observing our Minister of External Affairs, Dr. Jaishankar, speaking at various platforms, and Prime Minister Modi, different, and the government in different through different ministries, through different platforms. So India is aspiring to be, the major superpower, and for that, India has to first of all leverage the goodwill factor with the global South, which is why this G20, when this G20 happened under India's presidency, it was on a full display that how India is displaying the leadership of global South. In fact, India held 2 conferences, Voice of Global South, which is like giving voice to the global South, which was neglected and ignored for a long time by the global North. And India demonstrated this leadership during COVID time as well, when the whole world was quite, in an disarray due to COVID. So not only India being the most populous nation now, or most populous nation now, India developed its own vaccine, not only for its people, but also distributed to more than 140 countries all over the world during those times. What Global North was doing, actually, they were hoarding those vaccines, and they created a kind of, the vaccine apartheid. So that moment also gave a big, the goodwill moment to India from the global South, that yes, there is some country who is taking care of them and who is speaking about them. At G20, if you see, India, Prime Minister Modi not only proposed, but he had proposed during Indonesia G20, and at G20, before sitting on the summit, Prime Minister Modi announced that African Union should be our 21st member. So now from next time, it will not be G20, but G21, wherein first time African Union is the next member now. So African Union itself is like, I guess, around 51 members. So they are also part of this, the global economic growth trajectory, and where India helped that. So India has aspirations. So those aspirations, they need to be amplified and manifested through different trade routes and connectivity. India should show that presence. And if you take a look at the trade routes currently being talked about, all routes are leading to India. If you see the International North-South Transport Corridor at G20 itself, IMEC Corridor, India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor was announced, very ambitious project. But of course, the Middle East mess now has derailed that plan for the time being. But still, and then you have Vladivostok, Chennai trade corridor, sea route. Basically, you have, the INSTC also has two routes, as Benyamin has explained very well on that. Armenia is one, the backup plan for sure for India in that way, because of the equations with Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is not, unfriendly country to India, and India is not unfriendly to Azerbaijan. But their instances, basically, with Pakistan, the way on the Kashmir issue, they sidelined with Pakistan along with Turkey. So this is something which is matter of concern for India for sure. And of course, India will be looking for its own friends, and Armenia and India fits well into this. India supports Armenia in its all endeavors. So transfer the connectivity, Armenia fits well into that for sure. And stability is very important for that region. And that's how I think that if connectivity and Armenia is connected through those corridors, the stability will be one factor in the region, the peace and tranquility in that region. So those India's aspirations and India's the philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the whole world is our family. So this equitable share of resources among its peers and friendly countries, this is how India is looking forward the future. So yes, it has its implications in various formats, and strategically India will weigh down, whatever is suitable for India, India will do, and Armenia fits well into that.
If I may add something to Rananjay. So first of all, regarding Indian participation in North-South corridor, I'm speaking about internal Armenian North-South corridor to connect Armenia-Georgia border with Armenia-Iran border. Thankfully, we already have one Indian company who established a consortium with another Armenian construction company, and they jointly as a consortium won a tender to construct 8-kilometer part of this north-south highway somewhere between Yerevan and Gyumri. This is not about Sunik, but at least we have the first example when one Indian company with a consortium with one Armenian company won a tender in January 2023 to construct and finish the 8-kilometer section of this north-south highway between Yerevan and Gyumri. And according to contract, this construction work should be finished in autumn 2024. So yes, this is not Indian money, this is not Indian investment. It's Indian company which participated in one tender in consortium with Armenian company, but still this is very important because we can say that India or Indian private sector already is part of this intra-Armenia, this north-south highway project connecting Armenia-Georgia border with Armenia-Iran border. Regarding railway construction, I'm not too much optimistic here by two reasons. First, if, and I believe this is quite likely, there is not going to be any peace treaty soon between Armenia and Azerbaijan for different reasons, let's not discuss it, then it means that geopolitical tensions will continue and Sunik will be the epicenter of the geopolitical tensions, because we all understand that Azerbaijan and Turkey simply dream about possibility, if there will be a window of opportunity, to take part or whole of Sunik and establish joint land border. And any Armenia-Iran railway should pass through Sunik. And according to different estimates done some 10 years ago, when again there were discussions about Armenia-Iran railway via Sunik, at that time the price tag was approximately $4 billion. Given inflation in the world in the last 10 years, I will not be surprised if now the very preliminary price tag for this Armenia-Iran railroad could reach some 5 or even $6 billion. So I don't believe that anyone, state or any private company, will invest $6 billion in an area where every moment war can break out, because all global international investment companies or big companies in general, they have their special geopolitical risk assessment units. Also, they have access to special geopolitical consulting global companies. So I don't believe that if there is no Armenia-Azerbaijan peace, which means that every moment there is a chance that Azerbaijan will try to take Sunik every moment, then putting some $5 or $6 billion in the projects, which will take at least another 10 years, minimum 10 years, to construct this railway starting from Yerevan and bringing it up to from Yerevan, then to Yeregnador, then to Sisian, and then to Armenia-Iran border. But if some miracle happens, and we have Armenia-Azerbaijan peace, which means that also communications are restored, then there will be a direct line which will connect Iran with Black Sea, which means that also India with Black Sea into Europe. I'm speaking about railway, which starts from Bandar Abbas, this big Iranian port, then run into Nakhichevan-Iran border, then run via Nakhichevan, reach Armenia-Nakhichevan border in Yerevan, and then from Yerevan it goes to Yerevan, from Yerevan to Gyumri, and from Gyumri directly to Tbilisi. So in both cases, if there is a no peace, like no one, I think, will risk to put at least $5-6 billion for a 10-year project. If by miracle there is a peace, like why someone will put $6 billion in a railway project when railway projects all already exist? And a few words about India's leadership role. Definitely, India now takes a leading space, especially in Global South. And the key thing for India is, and this Indian foreign policy, why especially state in Global South in a broader term. It's not only like Africa, it's not only Southeast Asia, East Asia, but also Latin America, partly also Central Eurasia, and even South Caucasus. We can say that South Caucasus is in the edge between Europe and Global South. What is like so inciting in Indian foreign policy? Because Indians are not telling, okay, you have a binary choice, black and white. You are against us or you are with us. India is telling that, okay, guys, forget about these binary choices. Life is not a white and black movie.
Exactly.
Life is much more diverse. And India is not only telling this, but India is also showing this. While India has strategic partnership with the United States, India is a Quad member, India is a member of I2U2, this United States, Israel, United Arab Emirates, India cooperation formats. India keeps this strategic partnership and friendship with Russia. And despite huge pressure by United States and United Kingdom and the European Union on India that stop buying Russian oil, stop selling something to Russia, join anti-Russian sanctions, join us to destroy Russia, and blah, 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 blah. Indians are telling, guys, we are going to do what is in line with our interest, and please not put us between strange binary choices. But India not only telling not put India in front of strange binary choices, but India is also telling that I'm not going to put anyone into strange binary choices. Like I never heard that India came to Armenia and say, okay, do you want to buy weapons from India? Then you should make anti-Russian steps or anti-Western steps or any other steps. No, India is telling, okay, every country is a sovereign country, regardless its size. Every country has its own interests, and every country should base its actions based on its own interests, not on some ideological construction of democracy vs authoritarianism, or I don't know, good guy vs bad guy, or right side of history, wrong side of history, etc. This is why many countries are supporting India's growing role, because they understand that if India grows, they will not face a situation when India will come and say, okay, you should be with me against, I don't know, Ecuador, for example. Otherwise, I will put pressure on you.
This multilateral approach is one reason why many countries are welcoming India's rise to prominence. As you mentioned, trade relations are often fundamental to the national security and interests of countries. One of the key issues with the INSTC, India's North-South corridor, is that the US and the West are constantly imposing sanctions on Iran, which is currently aligned with Russia. How can India help Armenia navigate and balance the competitive, currently mutually exclusive world powers with its multilateral approach? As a small country, Armenia constantly has the issue that world powers wanted to choose one side over the other exclusively, but that's a bad situation for Armenia no matter what the choice.
So, first of all, India managed to free Chabahar port from US sanctions. And even US President Trump agreed not to put sanctions on any investments in Chabahar port,
Carts sanctions.
Which is a key on India North-South, this international North-South corridor to connect India with Russia or with Europe. And how India can help Armenia? I mean, Indian example is also very interesting. First, India helps because when Armenia deepens its partnership with India, especially in defense, this is not irritating neither the US nor Russia. I never heard from anyone in the United States, in Washington, in Brussels, in Paris, that Armenia should not have anything with India. And also, I never heard it from Russia that, okay, what is Armenia doing with India is unacceptable. We are hearing very angry statements from Russia that we are against Armenia's deepening relation with NATO, with United States. We are absolutely unhappy to see Armenia-US military drills, which took place in September 2023. That Russians are not happy to see EU mission in Armenia. They are not happy to see how Canada and Norway joined this mission, telling that, okay, this is being transformed from EU mission to NATO mission. So on a daily basis, we see a lot of concerns and angry statements from Russia regarding Armenia's relation with European Union, with France, with United States. But I never heard any statements at expert level or official political level from Russia that we are absolutely unhappy that, for example, Armenia buys something from India, that we are categorically against that India will appoint military attaché in Armenia, or statements that India is interested to destabilize South Caucasus, India wants to bring war to South Caucasus, India wants to kick out Russia from South Caucasus.
And this is already a positive for Armenia.
Yeah, this is a significant positive for Armenia.
India is the balancing factor here because of this very strong relationship with the both sides of the warring ends, basically. So whether you take it USA and Russia on another side, whether you take Iran or Israel on another side, India has very, very strong relationship with both sides. And that cools down the temperature when India is involved in that region. And diplomacy dialogue follows from there when the temperature is down. So, yes, I think Benjamin has explained it very, very well, that how India plays a very balancing factor to stabilize the region. And India's presence is not objected by any party. This is one of the most positive effect of India's involvement in the region.
How about Turkey? And let me just extend that question, because Rananjay, previously you said that you also don't view Azerbaijan, or India doesn't view Azerbaijan as an enemy. Speaking in absolute terms, India's trade with Azerbaijan is larger than that of Armenia. And of course,
Exactly.
it's not all about numbers, but we know that Azerbaijan is very motivated, along with Turkey, to stop any kind of rearming of Armenia. And Aliyev has actually singled out India in his speeches. And we also know that in order to establish the peace that you're talking about, there needs to be balance of power. So I believe that, many analysts believe that Azerbaijan will try to prevent India's strategy of balancing the power in the region. But if push comes to shove, if Azerbaijan presents more ultimatums and does not follow India's lead in terms of bringing peace to the region until it achieves every single piece of its maximalist aims, including maybe Sunni, because we know that they can keep mentioning that. How strategic is India's interest in Armenia? And will there ever come a time where India could say, you know what, we don't care about our relationship with Azerbaijan because we must, stand on the right side in this and hopefully ensure peace through robustly rearming Armenia?
Hovik, India has a unique way of handling its foreign affairs, basically. India never becomes direct in its, rhetorics. India doesn't believe in rhetorics. India believes in action, and those responses are given at the right time as India chooses itself. And those actions are not about words. Those actions are actions, actually, which will, affect the outcome of, the relationship in such a manner. It can be trade. It can be, the penalties, basically India pushed, like recently, a couple of years back, when Pakistan was under FATF blacklisting, grey list, and Pakistan was thinking that Turkey will take Pakistan out of that. And surprise, it was Turkey again going into FATF grey list. And everyone knows India was behind that. So it was a silent action. And those actions are, louder than words. So this is how India responds. So India is not going to be very, very specific. India doesn't want to be rhetoric in all those actions, but just it's all about, the interest of India has to be intact, and how it should be responded. It is carefully chosen by the strategists, the security experts within India, the geo experts in India, the ministry, the foreign affairs ministry. They decide how we should respond. Recently, a big shipbuilding contract to Turkey is taken back from India, and that ship was, submarine, basically. So it's a huge contract which India took back, and India said that we are going to develop on our own technology. So those actions are there. They are costly, and that's why, those countries who are running on rhetoric, they should understand that their words can be very costly to them. So this is how India deals. India doesn't speak, either you or me or this or that. India doesn't have hostile relationship with anybody. If that country wants hostile, India becomes hostile through action, but not in a direct manner, but through some measures which will draw a bigger cost on that country.
Okay. So one more question about the political alignment of Armenia. We mentioned that India does not keeps balance, but is Armenia's membership in EAEU seen as a net positive in India, or would India prefer if Armenia was part of the, what some people in Armenia are seeking, which is an alliance with the EU? Do you think that, do either of you think that India has a preference in this? And also, lastly, we know that India is a strong proponent of BRICS. So, maybe let me ask an outrageous question. Could Armenia's membership in BRICS be something in the future of Armenia that would benefit India as well? And how do you see that possibility? Maybe that's a fantasy, but
At any multilateral platform, whether country is big or small doesn't matter. It's one vote, you know. So, of course, India would like to expand it with friendly countries as member states. When it comes to the question of Armenia being helpful in EAEU or European Union, what if it happens like that? So India is always looking forward to friendly. I mean, it is very, very comfortable scenario for India to have friendly countries who are part of a trade bloc. And if friends are there, your work becomes easier. And that's how it goes. I mean, EAEU, I mean, India has very friendly relationship with all of those countries. It's not very, very, very particular. Russia itself is India's strategic partner, well-established strategic partner. So Armenia being there is a good thing, and I mean being part of EU is something a kind of hypothetical question right now. But right now Armenia is part of EAEU, so yes, it will be helpful for India for sure, and India would look forward to the as the free trade agreement negotiations are on with EAEU. And even with European Union, free trade agreement is on. In fact, a small Benelux country, I mean, they already have clinched the free trade agreement with India. So I think having threads in different trade blocks is always a leverage.
If I may jump in, we discussed a lot of aspects of India-Armenian relations, but I think we all agree that the key issue in the 21st century relation between two countries is a trade. And I'm speaking not about connectivity, but about the real trade, like export-import. If you look into numbers, in 2023, Armenia-India trade turnover was approximately $300 million. It's not too much. For example, let's compare with Russia. Trade with Russia in 2023 was $7.3 billion. So as we see, like trade with Russia is 25 times bigger than trade with India. And I believe all agree that if Armenia and India would like to deepen their relationship, they should trade more. And how to increase trade volume between Armenia and India, for example, how to do that in 2027, trade will be not $300 million, but at least $1 billion. Here, Armenia's membership into Eurasian Economic Union may help, especially if India and Eurasian Economic Union are going to finish the negotiations on the free trade area successfully and establish a free trade area between Eurasian Economic Union and India, which automatically will mean free trade area between Armenia and India. This free trade area itself can boost Armenia-India trade and somehow support the idea, let's bring Armenia-India bilateral trade to $1 billion. So from this perspective, I think if we look into the criteria, let's increase Armenia-India trade, I think the current membership into Eurasian Economic Union is much more useful than hypothetical membership into the European Union, which is not going to happen at least in the next 10 years as minimum.
Right.
And given these quick geopolitical changes, sorry, but no one can argue what will happen with European Union itself in 2034 or 2035.
I agree.
What kind of European Union we will have? I'm not telling that European Union will disappear, but what kind of EU we are going to have in 2035? Nobody knows. Really, nobody knows. Even Europeans don't know.
And to benefit this trade relationship between India and Armenia, there was a free trade agreement that was signed between Iran and the Eurasian Economic Union. So that's going to make a very, very nice trade highway, essentially.
Absolutely.
Fully right. This agreement was signed in December 2023, and according to this agreement, almost all products which are being produced in Eurasian Economic Union, including in Armenia, will have only 4.5% import tariff in Iran. 4.5% tariff is significantly low, given how protectionist Iranian market is, which means that when this agreement will enter into force, Yesterday, Russian Parliament State Duma started to discuss ratification. It will boost Armenia-Iran trade, but because all understand that if we speak about India-Armenia trade or Armenia being some sort of route between India and Europe, you cannot do this without Iran. So Iran-Eurasian Economic Union free trade agreement, it itself is a significant advantage for Armenia to keep its membership into Eurasian Economic Union, because at the end of the day, if both India and Iran will have free trade agreement with Eurasian Economic Union, then all this transit route, at least up to Armenia-Georgia border, will be in a free trade area, like India, then Iran, then Armenia.
Well, I feel like we could continue talking about this stuff for another 6 hours. It's very interesting, and there's always more to talk about. But for today, I think we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much, Rananjay and Benyamin, for joining the show and for this interesting conversation.
Thank you so much, Asbed, and thank you so much. Thank you, Hovik.
Thank you, Asbed and Hovik, and thank Rananjay for your time.
And thank you, Benyamin.
Thank you.
Take care.
And let's not, Rananjay, let's not wait 2 more years until we talk again.
Yeah, please.
I have to say,
it will be a great honor.
I have to say
It
that
will be
I
great
thought it was
honor,
months ago, and I went back to look at the show, and I thought, oh my God, it's been 2 years since we talked to him. It just, to me, because of our conversation in text and everything, it feels like we just talked a few months ago.
As we say, time flies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Please remember to support us. Go to our donate page, podcasts.groong.org/donate, and consider buying us a coffee, or better yet, become a sustaining member of Groong and give monthly. Thank you in advance. All right, that's our show today. The episode was recorded on April 25, 2024. We've been talking with Rananjay Anand, who is the co-founder and president of the Indo-Armenian Friendship NGO, and Dr. Benyamin Poghosyan, who is a senior fellow at APRI APRI Armenia, a Yerevan-based think tank. He's also the chairman of the Center for Political and Economic Strategic Studies.